Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
I feel I'm different than other Arab or Muslim people who came here. I chose to come here because I couldn't live anymore in Saudi Arabia. It wasn't an economical problem, it wasn't war, it was the society that drove me away. And coming here was saving my life. I'm writing my face. Hear me, O home, and hold your judgment until the moment is over. I was born in a city called Hufuf in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia. When I was growing up, I was not discouraged to do art, but I was giving the impression that it's not really something I should spend time in doing or learning. My mother and my father wanted me to be highly educated, so they encouraged me to be a doctor. I was a very obedient child, which wasn't very good, but I became a doctor because I just thought this is what I should do. I went to medical school in Egypt, and then I returned to Saudi Arabia. It is really hard to talk about Saudi Arabia because it's complicated. I don't know why things happen this way. Saudi Arabia is a really unique country within the Middle East and within the Arab countries. There is a lot of restriction and limitations for women in Saudi Arabia. Every woman has to have a guardian. He is the one who makes the decisions about her life. If you're a woman and grown up in that environment, you'll feel that you are less because of all this. I was working in Riyadh King Faisal Specialist Hospital as a cardiologist. I had decided that it is time for me to leave Saudi Arabia, and I was working on a chance to go out. In 1997, I got a fellowship to Mayo Clinic in echocardiography, and that was the chance. So I took it and came here and spent 2 years in Mayo Clinic. I wasn't that excited about it. I just wanted to be good at what I did until there was a point when I realized that I will never be satisfied, no matter how many certificates or how many degrees I got. So at that point, I decided maybe I'd try to become an artist. My work most of the time speaks about women and Middle Eastern women or women from Arab history. And it is more meaningful to use a medium that is also used by those women. So I use henna in my art and screen printing. I use it as an ink. Henna sticks to wool and silk and animal tissue. So it will stain it and remain there. I do screen printing and I do installation. But my first love is the line. I like to draw. Traditionally, figures are not favored in Islamic art. There are different explanations. One of them that I grew up with is that only God can create image, so you should not try to be God. I love to draw figures. They express what I want to say more. That's why I wanted to, when I talk about Islam, and all the taboos that don't make sense to me and make me feel that there are just barriers against opening our eyes and see what is true and what's false.
The issue of figural imagery in the world of Islam, in the art of Islam, is somewhat misunderstood. Many people will tell you that there's a passage in the Quran that prohibits the depiction of anthropomorphic or zoomorphic imagery. In fact, that's not really true. What the passage of the Quran really says is that you should not act or try to create as God does. So a very conservative interpretation of this is a prohibition on human and animal imagery. However, the depiction of people who come out of epic poetry or myths, or even people who are actually alive, that is portraiture, is very common and still exists today in some places in the Islamic world.
One of my projects is called Facebook, and it's based on the idea of how social media played in the woman environment in Saudi Arabia. Because they can be on Facebook, they can befriend whoever they want, and a lot of people could have pages or sites that call for women's rights or for citizens' rights. So I thought this is a really good subject. It inspired me for this painting, and I did it also in combination with a poem. And the poem starts with talking about how I, as an artist, try to address the audience who is in Saudi Arabia and they can't see my art, but I want them to see what I'm saying. أنتم من أكتب له، أنتم من أرسم له، أنتم الجمع الذي يتحاشى النظرة السائلة، يتحاشى البحث عن عين الحقيقة، فاسمعوني لدقيقة. It's not one print, it's a series of prints. And the second print, she's finished the poem and now she's standing with a brush facing the audience. There's another woman who was sitting, giving her back to the audience and kind of like cocooned over herself. And she represents the past, my negative side, the submissive woman. She is embedded in a head cloth, and she's sitting on a rug that's made by Bedouin women. I like fabric. It's connected to women. There's a lot of femininity in fabric, and there's a lot of fabric used by women.
The Islamic world was once called by a scholar the draped universe. The role of textiles is amazingly important. You can see this in many of the paintings that survive from the Islamic world. They are studded with carpets, with curtains, with people wearing magnificent robes. And so it seems to me that what she's doing in many ways is pulling together a very, very long tradition of Saudi and Middle Eastern practice and putting it into the context of her ideas of the 21st century and the role of women.
When I first came to the US, I was really angry against Islam. But then I started to see my culture from far away. So I kind of like you go far away from the picture and you see the whole thing. So I saw the beautiful things and the not beautiful things all together. I started to see things in a less black and white version. I see the beauty in the culture, and I see that humans are essentially the same material everywhere. And every culture has the power or the potential to improve itself and to change. I am writing my face. Hear me, O home, and hold your judgment until the moment is over. I grow out of you. Yours is my direction when I pray. Hear me out until the end of the painting. خلاص, finished.
First I make like a wooden back, and then I use a nail gun to nail the first layer of aluminum. I call my pieces aluminum dioramas. Most people have made a diorama when they're like little kids. So that gives people kind of perspective that there are layers or dimensions to it. I first started, it was more of a traditional diorama, so like the pieces were layered like this, you know, like one from each other in parallel. And then I realized that the aluminum offered so much more potential for kind of laying it out in all different angles, which is really what I was going for anyways. And I'm really digging on the shadows that they create, because I feel like, you know, like that fills in the gaps, that like develops, it rounds the piece out. Even though they're like they're square pieces, planes stuck together, it's all of a sudden round. You know, like almost like an armadillo. It's like, whoop. I want the public to enjoy the shapes and the lines. I'd like them to be able to recognize that it is a landscape. I want people to kind of take it out of context, from away from the wall and then maybe into their own life or other visions they may have out in nature. It's pretty simple, I guess.
I find that the greatest tool for writing is a walk. It really helps to think, let's just solitude. I call myself a composer. I write pop music and I write theater music, I perform and I sing. I teach songwriting at McPhail, I had for many years, but I think I'm probably most known for being in the Suburbs, my rock band that I started when I was 19 years old. I went to high school at Blake School here in Minnesota and studied music at McPhail, theory and jazz piano, and that really was one of those kind of music nerd kids that actually liked studying music and practicing piano. So when I went to Cal Arts, which is California Institute of the Arts out in Los Angeles, it was kind of had aspirations to be more of a contemporary classical composer. And I was really into jazz, and to get into school I had to write my own 12-tone serialist piece, and so I was somewhat serious about that. But at the same time, I was hanging out with my buddy Beej Cheney, and we were partying and having a good time and listening to a lot of rock and roll. So I came back to Minneapolis and wanted to start a rock band. I met up with Chris Osgood from the Suicide Commandos, and Chris said, the only people are doing this kind of music in town, this is 1977, are me. And I said, well, why don't you be in my band? And he goes, I got my own band. But there's a couple other guys, Bruce Allen and Michael Halliday, that are playing this kind of music. They're really into this kind of music. So Bruce and Michael and I got together and started the Suburbs.
I like cows, and they like me.
We got our first deal with Twin Tone when we were 19 years old, and we put out a couple of really cool records right away. And in 1980, we were signed to Polygram, and we put out a record called Love is the Law. And then by that time, we were touring and doing videos, and we were on MTV and all that stuff, and in New York and LA and traveling. And we ended up moving to A&M Records. We were touring with REM and playing with the Talking Heads, and we were all friends and we were hanging out. But it was a beautiful, fun, super fun time. From 1977 to 1987 was the Suburbs' heyday. Suburbs was my outlet for songwriting. And we started out writing alternative music. And then we kind of reached this peak. We couldn't get the radio play that we needed to sell enough records. And we were dropped by our labels. And so I went through quite a confused period as a songwriter. I just couldn't find my voice or my groove and lost my interest, really. And that's when I got into writing for theater.
One day, it was all sunshine, and then the sunshine left in an 86 Chrysler LeBaron. Just drove down the street, took a left at the light, and then all the light was gone.
So when the Suburbs finally called it quits, I become friends with Dominique Surand and Stephen Epp and people of Junelun, Theatre de la Junelun. And they said, we're opening this new theater. Why don't you write some music for our new show? And I just dove into it. It was 1789, French Revolution. I wrote for strings, and I brought in synthesizers and computers and samplers. It's quite an epic piece they did at the Guthrie Lab. The success of that, I went, this is cool. I want to do this.
I understand you now. You took a sacred vow to close your heart and lock out all the pain. He left you feeling numb. He left you struck dumb, stuck down in the shadows where you reign.
The Ordway called, and they were putting together a locally produced team. They wanted to do their own show, and they chose me to compose, Joe Koala to direct and choreograph, and Craig Wright to be the playwright. And we came up with a show called Heaven. There's a lot of traditional gypsy music, and we had a successful kind of run at the Guthrie, won the Sage for best choreography and music, and we want to show it to the public theater, and we'll see what happens with that.
To Marjorie, my darling wife, there's nothing cheaper than a human life. Neither yours nor another's nor her very own mother's. Thus I'll have just a small glass of wine.
I'm working on a show with Jeff Hatcher for the Minnesota History Theater called Glen Sheen. It's about the Congdon murders.
This is the story, a tale we know well, of greed and murder as foul as we've seen. Harrowing, gory, the spirits still dwell in the halls of haunted Glen Sheen.
So I love the task of crafting character songs, and a lot of times I'll start with lyrics with that.
It's getting late for the woman. Turn another page for the woman locked inside her cage.
So that even those ballads are a little darker and a little same kind of mood.
It's her murder plot, not mine.
I'm quite amused by my own work.
It's her murder plot, not mine.
As opposed to Olympus, which is the musical theater thing is a labor of love, because it takes years of workshops and preparation. So it really is just for the sheer enjoyment of it.
Tell him the only way his heart will mend is when he learns to love again. And it seems kind of funny right now, but you'll still be friends. Let him down easy.
John, Steve, and I are the new standards, and John Munson and I have been friends, and we were working on a project, and it was just the stand-up bass and the piano in my living room where we were rehearsing, and my wife, Eleanor, came out of the bedroom and went, "This is awesome, what are you guys doing? You should take this, you should go on stage and do this." So we asked Steve to join us, and Steve Rome, of course, he is the new standards.
I've got a feeling this year's for me and you. So happy Christmas. I love you, baby.
It was an offshoot of the new standards. It's this big, sprawling kind of variety show that we do called the New Standards Holiday Show. Cool thing of the show is we get a lot of good guests. This year is going to be silly good.
I was walking through the middle of town, and I said to myself, yeah, what's going on? People breaking their law just to stay off the street. People breaking their hearts just to...
In 2013, the Suburbs got back together. We had Hugo on drums, myself, and Beej is still the core unit. Steve Price joined us, and now he's one of the family, love him. And we asked Steve Branzig to take Bruce's part. So we got that group together, the new kind of revamped Suburbs, and made this new record. One of the first things I wanted to do was go to play New York so we could get, the national press. And so we're off back, out in the world.
Come on, that's my favorite Let's dance till the radio on.
When my wife passed away, it was, I was alone. And so when I started writing the song, which turned out to be one of the cooler songs on the record, I think, I realized it was about her. She just loved to dance around the kitchen. We'd cook and eat, drink wine. And I always knew it was going to be a romantic evening if the music came on in the kitchen.
We can dance if you take my hand.
I think to make it work is diversify. I'll teach and I'll do theater and make rock records, play shows, play piano. I do feel super blessed to have the opportunity to make art and make music.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.